name is Dani Torrent. I am from Barcelona. I've been always creating art as my mother was a sculptor. My house was full of art and it was like having a teacher at home. I never thought that it could be my profession because it was something that it was in my everyday life. I decided to study art history. I was always projecting things and what to do with this technique or with this color palette. I got all these references, but it lacked the practice and I wanted to do something. What I thought it was the biggest art form of all because it has everything was cinema, and I started to study film direction. But I realized that the part that's really creative is very small compared with all the time spent waiting or coordinating a lot of practical things that I was not very interested in. So finally, I thought, well, the thing that I've always been doing and I feel at home and maybe is the most direct of all art, the art that goes from the idea to the results more quickly was the drawing. And then I finally started to study illustration since 2008, I guess, during the crisis. I've been combining my exhibitions as a fine art artist and illustration of books, children's books or young adults books, which I always write. I love paper, so I've been working on paper in very different ways. When I started children's illustration, I used a lot of watercolor and in a very classical way, but then I wanted something more direct. You know, watercolor needs the process. You have to know when you can paint, when you cannot, how long do you have to wait. And I started to do something more spontaneous or direct drawings with pencils. I've been combining this with watercolor. Lately, I am adding watercolor and gouache to these projects about male intimacy that has something very painterly. It has the immediacy of pencil, but also the power of painting. What excites me more is the process, I think. I need to be surprised. I don't want to know exactly what it will end up. Of course, I have an intention and I have a direction when I start, but I like to be a bit jazzy with painting. So you have a theme and then you improvise. Maybe it's not super good at the moment, then you have to resolve it in a certain way that it ends up well. In creating my artwork, I always try to force a little my style, and there are always two forces. One that wants to be very childlike, very spontaneous, but then I have this classical training and these realistic skills. I'm trying always to reset myself. I'm creating art that relates to myself in all the different ways. A part of me that's very sexual, but another that's very naive. There is another one that's very dark. And maybe that it's not understood by the public. So maybe my editors of children's book don't understand that I'm doing this intimacy, erotic kind of art. What I do is not to think too much about the public or who will receive it. I always try to do things that I like to do. So I work for me in the first place, and then I try to make it understandable for everybody. What I would advise to artists that are beginning is that never forget that you want to be an artist for the joy of being an artist. You have to have fun every day in your work. Maybe it's not the easiest way of being rich. You do this because you like to do this. At the moment that you start to not finding the joy, then you have to think what's the barrier between you and this happiness, and then you have to change something. I have an Instagram account, which is Dani Torrent X, in which I post everything I do related with intimacy and male body and this more adult part of my work. And I sell things there. So if you find something that you like, just DM me and ask. I'll be glad. In my experience, everything has to be very compartmented and very specialized, and you have to have a brand and you have to have a recognizable style. Forget about everything, just enjoy. And at the end of the day, what makes you special is your way of seeing the world. So everything that makes you want to paint, do it. It doesn't matter if it's your child part or your sexual one or your, I don't know, gothic or anything. Anything you do, it can only be done by yourself. Don't try to be a brand, be a person.